able to get anything done, whereas eXyu really played so far above expectations for himself, and it was a jungle canyon.
And that's something they forced in draft, right? Like, they were like, we're going to get the Xin Zhao. You're going to have to pick something silly because we are banning out, you know, the Lee off the bat. And then they followed it up with the Nocturne and J4 bans as well, really forcing them to pick something off meta.
I mean, it's just really interesting, too, thinking about it. Again, like, I keep going back to this, you know, chat that I had with Castle in the interview and also previous to the interview, and him talking about how, yeah, like, there's no pressure on us. They're the ones that should be nervous. They were supposed to be winning the split, or at least in competition for it.
Yeah.
And they're here in the lower bracket after one round, already getting upset. And he said, we just need to do one thing, like, we'll have one good moment, and they're going to start sweating. How much have Cloud9 got to be sweating now? Like, this is crazy.
Buckets.
Yeah,
You are
I would be
sweating.
so stressed.
Wild, man. This is a seriously intense moment. So let's see what our last draft is going to look like. Annie, Talia, Nocturne, Aurora, Yunara, Pantheon, all banned away. The first pick of the whole draft is Leona for Cloud9. They want Vulcan on a playmaker.
Yeah. And I mean, you also want to take it away from Huhi, right? Huhi's going to be locking in that Rakan on the opposite side, and then eXyu is going to be picking up that jungle pick early this time, so they don't have to flex into something.
And that's where I'm really curious what Blaber is going to want to bring out. There are things like Viego if you want an AD jungle. Then you can really start getting into the more off-meta stuff. Like, he played Rek'Sai in Game 5 last time. People were very critical of the Rek'Sai. I don't know if it was really the pick that so much that you can blame on, though, but there was, like, a lot of mistakes. You know, they got solo killed on top side. Thanatos died 1v1 to Fudge, and they failed to dive on bot side, and you know, everything kind of went bad from there. But there are those more off-meta picks. There's also AP picks that are still looked at as very powerful in solo queue, things like Fiddlesticks that aren't really played much in pro. Viego, as I mentioned, is kind of one of those AD options. There's things that he used to be known for very well, like the Kindred that are still going to be available, which is actually quite popular with some of the Kraken buffs that we got recently. A lot of people are playing a lot of these Kraken junglers. But, like, you're not going to be playing something that you have a ton of practice with. So it is going to be an AP answer, and it is going to be Zyra. So it's about the power farming. But I will say, this is never a style of jungling that I associated with Blaber, really. I always see him as someone, yes, he likes to power farm, but he also likes to have those go buttons, and Zyra does not.
Yeah, I was actually really curious to see if he'd be locking in a Zyra or a Brand, because they both received buffs, not on this latest patch, but on the previous one. The big thing for me now is what they're going to go for Loki in mid lane, right? Because the best option unequivocally for AD mids is the Yone. That was already played in this. The Corki is off the table, which is another champ that you might want to flex in there. So I'm curious to see.
Maybe, if you want to go that angle. I think something like that can work. There's also more of the, like, out of left field picks. Like, there's tons of stuff like that. Like, you can go Aurelia, you can go Kled, you can go Yasuo, you can do all kinds of wild stuff, but not things that we're really looking at and expecting at all. But the thing that does come to mind as far as taking in consideration that is pro play would be Jace. That's where my eyes would be going if you're thinking, all right, we have an AP jungle. Do we want an AD mid that's associated with it? The other option is, of course, that you can just do like an AD top and you already have Zeri bot. It's some magic damage, but I think it's still fine unless they have a pure tank. You know, it's not really going to be that big of a deal. And Sion's obviously already gone. There are still things like Ornn that are up and available from top lane, though, so there are options.
Yeah, and we do see even DSG removing the Trist off the board as well, in case they wanted to go for her. And we'll see what C9 end up taking out. The TF and the Syndra taken out for C9.
I feel like TF also, honestly, that tells me that they're thinking about playing split push with Thanatos. You know, that's generally what I think about. And also could be, you know, that Jace wants to play side lane, that could go mid, right? So there are different options, but clearly they are concerned about that split push. They want to play towards it. TF is such a good answer at actually shutting it down. Mel would be pretty cool, something that could kind of fit the Darkwings style. I wouldn't be surprised to see some sort of control mage, and it's going to be kind of like dealer's choice here. I do think it is pretty risky, though, to be going Cassio blind. And I don't think that Cassio is actually very good into what we have seen drafted just yet. Cassio is really good against a lot of these shortened range champions, you know, champions that have to really get in and kind of like walk at you. But Zyra can just be plant poking you. I don't think it's particularly good against any of these picks that have come through just yet. And we're getting Senna, so it's going to be Zeri mid.
Okay.
It's going to be Zeri mid for Loki, which we used to see a while ago when it was like really OP, but we haven't seen that in quite some time. So it is Rek'Sai. Throwback to the last game that they lost with this in a Game 5 against Shopify, and they're moving the Zeri mid. They're putting the Senna bot, and we're just looking for this 5th pick here so it's going to be Rek'Sai top, excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rek'Sai top.
Yeah,
Rek'Sai top.
That's the most likely outcome here. Yeah.
Which we've seen a decent bit. Broken Blade played it. Some other people have played it.
It does get to the point where she just ends up being so tanky in teamfights, is just constantly unburrowing and kind of CCing you. Can be really, really annoying to deal with, especially with a Senna on your team. So this is a very interesting draft from C9, particularly because of the Zeri flex into the mid lane. Again, like you said, something that we used to see a ton from was a staple AD mid. Now, not so much into the Cassiopeia.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting because it's not exactly like a long-range pick. I thought that they were going to go for something a lot more kind of like pokey that could kind of outrange the Cassio.
Like the Jace.
Exactly, like the Jace. But now it's going to be this kind of mini game where it's like Zeri has to get relatively close. But if you can't dodge Qs, you're going to get slammed in trades. And I feel like DSG, their draft is just playing normal Pro League of Legends. And C9 have cooked something up, but it's like, is it good or not? That's the real question. How comfortable are these players? When is the last time, Loki played a Zeri mid game? Like, that's kind of my real question. Maybe he's played in some in solo queue. Has he been scrimming with it? Has Thanatos been scrimming with Rek'Sai top? Or is this just something that he's tried out a little bit in solo queue? Like, how used to you are playing these roles, right? Like, this is very, very different than their standard roles. Where you look over on the other side, it's Gnar, it's Jarvan, Rakan, like it's easy engage. MF is very standard. The only kind of little wrinkle is Cassio, but it still kind of fills a very similar role to what you're used to seeing in pro play. So it's interesting to me coming in here. I don't think that C9's draft is necessarily bad, but I think that DSG's is going to be way more comfort.
And he has played Zeri twice, as we see.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of
When was the last game? That's what I'm really curious about. Like, was this, years and years ago? I'm going to see if I can actually find his solo queue account and see if he's been playing it at all in solo queue even.
Okay. But I think you bring up a really good point, right? Because it's not like
going on a journey.
All right.
This draft is really interesting. If they end up snowballing, I can see a point where you're just getting buffed with the Senna. There's a ton of damage coming out of this. Zyra, Zeri's able to dart in and out. Rek'Sai is able to dart in and out, right? But then it's about comfort. Like, how comfortable is Loki on this pick, as we just talked about? How comfortable is Thanatos on this Rek'Sai pick? Because that's a little bit different, not something we've seen him kind of come out and pilot, right? And then Blaber returning to kind of this power farming style of jungler, which I think, even if he's not known for the Zyra, I do think he's pretty comfortable in this position based on power farming carries he's played already.
So Loki has played 6 games of Zeri in the last 2 weeks, and he's 4-2 on in solo queue.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if that's Zeri mid or not. Based on the website I'm showing it on, it just shows you the champion. It doesn't actually show you the roles or kind of any more details. No Rek'Sai top games in the last 2 weeks for Thanatos, at least on the solo queue account that I'm looking at. Doesn't mean they don't have 5 other hidden ones.
Okay, a little bit of a scrap down here in the bottom lane. Zven with the early barrier alongside Vulcan's heal there, as Rahel and Huhi also going to use the heal from the Rakan. But speaking of Huhi, pre-game 1 of this series, at the very top of the day, he was giving his team a pep talk.
Hey guys. It's all perspective.
It's all a simulation.
Well, if it's a simulation, I know that we're gonna win.
Yeah.
Yeah, just have fun.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Have fun. Have fun. Just enjoy being in the simulation.
Yeah.
Hey,
they're all in a simulation. It makes much more sense now.
It's game 5 of a simulation. We'll see if they can simulate an entire win on this one. Simulate a reverse sweep, an upset.
And in pro play, Thanatos 0 Rek'Sai games. So has never played a Rek'Sai game in pro play. This is his first crack at it, and this is going to be one that people are going to be looking at very heavily. If C9 lose this, everything will be getting, under a microscope. People will be very, very laser focused on their picks and their decisions.
So I'm very curious if we're going to see the same play out of Disguise that we saw in games 3 and 4, the 2 games that they won, because we're getting close to that point on the clock where they have control over the bot lane, and the bot laners move in with the jungler to invade as the chickens are respawning in Cloud9's side. Now for Zyra, she's going to be clearing very fast. I'm going to be curious if we get to see that play again, because Rahel and Huhi are still controlling the 2v2 down here in bot lane.
I mean, Zven is completely right? You know, Senna generally can kind of out-sustain in these heavy trades, but they're just losing the trades, and he's completely out of mana now. And we got to see how Thanatos wants to play this matchup on top side. Honestly, it looks pretty good because the amount of sustain that the Rek'Sai has. You know, when he's in mini, you can tunnel in on him, take these trades, and you're constantly just building up Fury in these short trades. Then you go underground, you burrow, and you heal back up. And so you're slowly trying to whittle people down. It's very similar to the old style kind of tank Rek'Sai when it came into pro play, which is just all about sustain, all about slowly whittling them down and getting it to a point where they're out of resources and then have to either potentially die or take a bad base. And that's kind of how you build your edges. So it'll be interesting to see if he can really do that well in the 1v1. And if he does well in the 1v1, how he's going to perform in the 5v5, because Rek'Sai is famously not a great team fighter and honestly pretty difficult to play well in those 5v5s.
Yeah, and I feel like Thanatos in general across this series has looked a little less comfortable than he has previously in this split with team fighting with the rest of the team. It feels like sometimes he's been disconnected. So we'll see how he ends up doing on this Rek'Sai pick. Like you mentioned, she just has so much sustain. So he should be able to kind of push in on this top side a bit.
And honestly, I'm just willing to straight up say, I just think Castle has just been better than Thanatos across the series, right? Like he has been someone who has gotten some credit, you know, for his play throughout the last while. Is kind of, especially when DSG was losing a lot last split, people often looked at Castle and say, well, he's the only hope, right? Like he's the guy that's going to make it happen if it were to happen. But he has played a very good series against a very tough opponent. Most people look at Thanatos as the best laning top laner in the league. Even if you don't agree that he's better than Bwipo, which a lot of people do think he's better than Bwipo, just point blank period, pretty much everyone will tell you he's the best laner in the league. And Castle has been getting the better of him, it feels like.
Yeah, as we see Rahel heading up to match this Senna headed up towards the top side. They really want to get her out of this MF lane, right? Like MF just provides so much pressure. Recently received, I believe, a few buffs on this patch. So we'll see Rahel kind of matching that swap and see if it gives DSG prio over this top side. Meanwhile, this Rek'Sai was able to kind of push in the Gnar based on where the wave state was at there. So we'll see if C9 go for any sort of Drake take.
But first, they're going for a play up here in the top side. Rahel and Huhi got to try to get away before Blaber can show up. Vulcan wanted to save the Shield of Daybreak there for when Blaber arrived, but the cleanse from Rahel guarantees that he can still escape before Zyra gets there. That's the thing about Zyra. You're so good at power farming. You're very effective if somebody has to engage into you, but actually getting there to join up with the play, you're very slow. You don't have any of your power budget put into that target access.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just kind of poking and prodding and looking for that counter engage if they do go too far forward. We touched on it just briefly earlier. Potential of the reverse sweep. There have not been a lot of reverse sweeps, you know, in NA history. Only 13 ever in a lot of years of LCS and now LTA.
Yeah, that's
the
low.
last one was back in 2022. So a long time ago with TL pulling off that reverse sweep against CLG. So it has been years since we have had one. And I just cannot overstate enough. If this was to be the matchup in which you have a reverse sweep, it could not be more shocking.
Yeah, it would be the biggest upset that we've ever had here in North America. That's for certain. As C9 are just going to continue trying to steal away resources here in the top side jungle. Blaber using the speed clearing power of that Zyra. He is level 6. He does have the Strangle Thorns. And now DSG are going to have to be careful here. Zven gets a root onto Rahel, and now Vulcan goes in for the dive. Tons of damage back into Vulcan, though, with a turret. As C9 botch the dive, and they nearly lose 2. Loki's coming up to finish the job. Lightning Crash gets them both down to about 100 HP. The turret's not going to finish anybody off just yet, but eXyu sure will. It's a double kill for Loki, but it's also 2 kills for Disguise.
Loki able to bail them out because that play would have been horrible otherwise, but he gets the double kill. Credit to Rahel. How fast was he on that flash? Insta reacts with Blaber flashing over the wall to be able to actually dodge out of some of that damage, some of that lockdown. and be able to help to turn around that initial play. Gets one back, gets a kill to his name. He still lost quite a bit of farm, and you can see as a result, even with that kill, he's barely up in gold. But this now at least gives C9 a clear win condition. Loki is the one that's very ahead. So one more time, let's watch Rahel. As in goes Vulcan. Look at this flash. Flashes out of the root. We're back to live. They're fighting potentially. Okay,
they're fighting the grubs, so it's going to be an early first couple of grubs here for Disguised as eXyu turns his attention back over to the fight. C9 lock up a couple, but it's Disguised knocking them down. Only the one grub claimed so far, though, as Huhi and Darkwings are very low on HP, and Loki's about to get paid again. Kill credit goes over to Zven instead, as Rahel now making his way down to the fight. 2 grubs for the side of Disguised. That last one does not go their way, though. Cloud9 will at least deny the little Void Mites.
Yeah, it feels like Loki showing up to these fights to kind of rescue C9 again there. He did it on the top side. We didn't get to see the back half of that replay, but it was him coming ahead there as well. And so we talked about how comfortable is he going to be on this Zeri. If he's in a good spot going into the mid game, she does have the potential to be absolute terror in team fight.
Really does. And I mean, the fact that he has been playing it in solo queue even just recently, like as of the last couple of weeks, he has 6 games on it, means he's obviously comfortable with the pick, right? It's not something that he's just having to just like pull out the bag because he couldn't think of anything else. So we can go back to this earlier play. And it is, DSG that we're taking over this position here. Darkwings was in a pretty risky spot, but not that easy to burst down here as it's really just Zven hitting. Blaber couldn't get much damage over the wall. Loki was a bit late to show up. But then with these low health bars, Loki and Zven able to chase down and kill off Huhi. And thankfully for DSG, Loki did not have his ult back up. Otherwise, this could have been disastrous. He could have potentially chased for a lot more.
Ooh, but now Zven's in some danger. He tries to flash away, but no, Castle takes him out. DSG making the move up here in the top side. eXyu working together with his top laner to find the kill on Zven.
And look how confident they are, man. Like, insta double flash after him. They are really feeling it. DSG feels like they are in a groove. And again, this is another early game that is going in their favor.
Okay, Vulcan now gets caught out by the grand entrance. Rahel and Darkwings ready to provide some follow-up damage. Make it rain, it's bullet time. Vulcan drops and Darkwings collects the 5th kill of the game for Disguised.
I keep thinking of that interview you did with Castle, right? Where like the onus is not on them. The pressure is not on them. It's on C9. And the way that DSG have been playing so aggressively, constantly looking for these picks is just really, really impressive.
And the early games, I mean, Cloud9, it's 2-2, right? But they lost the early game in that first game. This is 4 out of 5 early games that have gone the way of DSG in this best of 5.
Yeah, really impressive stuff from them. Experimental Hexplate first item on Loki's Zeri. So the buffs on that, I can see a lot of synergy there. Lightning Crash already, you're in that mode where you just want to be popping off, and those bonus stats are going to make him very scary.
People used to actually do this build back in the day when there was like the tanky Zeri, if you remember, with like Titanic and all that kind of stuff. People used to do that style. I've seen people messing around with it since the buffs on both Zeri, as well as Unara and some other champions. So people are definitely experimenting with the experimental hexplate, and I do think this is one that can work well. It's also, when you're thinking about how the comp works for DSG, really explosive engage, really a ton of upfront damage. Jarvan ult, the Rakan ult, the MF ult, everything flying in at you. So having some HP makes a lot of sense to try to keep you alive.
Not going to carry the game if you're dead in the first 2 seconds of the fight. We are seeing first items come online across the board. We still don't have something fully completed for Rahel's MF. He's the notable core still missing one, but the other 7 non-support players in the game do have those first items fully done now. As the second Drake of the game is live, remember that Disguised have secured both that first Drake and a majority of the grubs so far for themselves. So if they get this Drake as well, they'll already lock in feats here in game number 5 alongside it.
And it's looking really, really good. I mean, Darkwing's got a very early tier. He's been stacking that up. And we'll see where he wants to go from here.
Okay, Vulcan leading the charge. Goes in for the Zenith Blade. Follows it up with a Solar Flare, but where's the rest of the team? Where's the damage? C9 looking to send it after Huhi and Castle, but they don't have the follow-up. Rahel now stepping forward. Blaber gets charmed up. eXyu's there with a bullet time flying over the top, but again, they don't have enough damage to guarantee a kill. Stun up on Vulcan. Darkwings is going to get taken down. Big mistake coming out of him, but now Castle's ready to follow it up here with a Mega Gnar. More damage goes in on Zven, and he drops. Castle needs one more hit on Vulcan, but he can't quite get it until he hits him with the rock. Loki's still fighting back, trying to save the day for C9. Rahel falls next. Double kill back over to the Zeri. DSG It's a triple for Zeri, making a quadra. Loki at their darkest hour will not let C9 fall.
We talked about Loki bailing them out early, got him into a great position. This Zeri is now 7-1-1. She is going to be an absolute terror, but this fight did not start out nearly as well as I thought. It was going to for C9 until Darkwings ends up getting picked off on the back kind of jungle entrance here.
Yeah, Darkwings just went way too far forward. He split from the rest of the team. They're having a 4v4 that is winning on the other side, and Darkwings tries to come in on this flank, walks straight into the Zyra ult, gets knocked up. Loki knocks him down. That is the domino that started everything going bad here. Castle does a great job with Rahel taking out multiple members, and then Loki is able to just kite this out, and look at all the space that is created by Thanatos in that back line. Gets in on him and just lines him up for Loki to knock him down. Blaber with a great double root at the end there. 7 of 8 kills for the team. 2 completed items already before the call completes.
Let's go, let's go.
I mean, they are feeling it, right? Like, he is excited.
Yeah.
They know that is massive. Even with him having 7 kills, the goal's almost dead even. It is crazy. This is one of those rare games where you are ultra fed like that, and you have to be for your team to have a chance.
Yeah, and I also want to call out, like, obviously, Castle did a really good job on the Gnar, but then Thanatos on the Rek'Sai, I thought he played that really, really well. We've talked about how in some of those team fights he has looked a bit lost or disjointed. Absolutely not there. Sets up really, really well for Loki to clean up that quadra.
I do not know the last time I saw someone have 2 fully completed items and their cull is not even finished. That is how much of this money is solely concentrated on Loki's Zeri. If C9 wants to win this game, it will be off of his performance. I think if you're Darkwings, you're kind of kicking yourself a little bit for that last fight. It was a pretty big blunder, but you've got to lock in. You got to bounce back. The Herald is about to spawn here in about 5 seconds. And remember that last game, C9 was there as soon as it spawned. They had a plan. They wanted to control it. But DSG approached, they get the pick on Blaber, they steal the Herald away. So we'll see how that fight plays out in this 5th and final game.
Yeah, and I mean, the good news is you have a lot of backline access here on the DSG side, a lot of dive. So if you can lock down and one-shot that Zeri, the fights are super winnable. The bad news is you have to do that through a Zyra ult, through a Senna ult, through all these tools that are meant to punish that over-engage. So that is the difficulty that they're really going to be facing here. But if you get that snap engage from Huhi, as we've already seen save some games earlier in this series, they could still win.
Okay, Rahel making his way over to the top side river as Huhi, Castle, and eXyu were thinking about starting up that Herald. They started up a little bit, but C9 immediately ready to respond. Blaber's Zyra does tons of damage to these neutral objectives very, very quickly as the tier 1 turret in the bottom lane is going to be claimed by Darkwings. Now, he has a teleport that he can join up for a Herald fight if he wants to, but it's important to also note that his mana bar is very low. Only about 1/3 still left on that right now, so Disguised, they're going to decide, hey, that's fine. We'll take the immediate money of the tier 1 turret down there in that bottom side. They already had Feet of Warfare. Now they have Feet of Turret. They're going to get the boot upgrade for that one, and that'll feel pretty good overall.
Yeah, not bad whatsoever, and I don't think they're in a great position to actually look for a fight there.
Yeah.
Darkwings now gets his 2nd item, so he's going to be feeling a lot more comfortable. Rahel, still needs to cash out that cull and work in towards his 2nd item. We're going to see Zven almost guaranteed go for Black Cleaver 2nd, which also is going to be really nice for the Zeri.
Yeah.
Give some more shred in for that Zeri. The whole team has one job now, and it is enable Loki.
Zeri.
Yeah. Protect the Zeri, enable the Zeri, buff the Zeri. Whatever you can do to make Loki's life easy, that's what you're doing at this point in the game if you are C9. So I want to see, really just emphasize, set him up for success. Nothing else really much matters for Cloud9 right now.
Ooh, and there's the lightning crash. Loki is on the hunt and Castle is on the run. He's still got his flash and he has to use it just to try to survive, but he still might not do it as the Dawning Shadow is not even required. Loki is dominating with a solo kill on Castle.
And that's some of the power of the experimental Hexblade. 20% move speed plus the move speed of the ulti. He just couldn't get out. Even with the boomerang blade to slow him, it just didn't matter.
Yeah, her ult is such a nuke, and now with that extra move speed, she's just easily able to chase down Castle. And it's going to be so, so difficult now. That team fight was so deciding, giving this quadra kill over to this Zeri. Every time DSG set up for a neutral objective, they have to keep the Zeri in mind.
I mean, there's just some champions in League of Legends. If you play the game, we've all felt it, where you just see certain champions dominate a team fight like that, get a quadra, get a penta, and you just get that feeling in your stomach that like, the game is already over, right? And Zeri is at the top of that list, I feel like. You know, for those types of champions, it can be incredibly difficult to stop this champion. Snowballs so incredibly well, so much move speed that makes it really difficult to actually get away from her when she is strong, and so much safety with the E over walls as long as you're positioning well.
Yeah, and with the Hexblade, like, it adds further agency to her where she can take care of herself. Nice Herald drop in this mid lane from C9 to clean up that tier 1 turret. Should give them easy access to this Drake. And now we'll just see if DSG want to contest.
Yeah, DSG are moving in. eXyu just immediately drops the Cataclysm and has to try to back away as Rahel is interrupted in his bullet time, and now DSG's attempt does not have the results they're looking for. Thanatos teleports in, ready to create a little bit of extra space if they need. Castle's already back in Mini-Gnar, though. DSG, they spent a lot there, and they didn't get a whole lot for it. Vulcan's low, but he's the only one. Everybody else on C9 still feels fine. Loki's still at 80% HP, and Disguised are still hanging around the area. They still want to contest for this Drake. eXyu moves up, Drake at about half HP. Thanatos wrapping around on the side, and Castle still Mini-Gnar. Thanatos finds his way onto Rahel, and now C9 are trying to find the engage. Already a godlike spree for Loki, and Disguised are thoroughly crushed. Castle and eXyu still trying to get away. Thanatos isn't worried about it. Castle wants to try to get a hero play, and eXyu gets a shutdown. They finally get the Zeri, but they're going to lose the entire team as the cost. eXyu wants a little more damage on Zven, but he can't find it. A double kill for Thanatos' Rek'Sai. The Zeri mission was accomplished, but at incredibly great cost, as C9 will ace Disguised and take the Drake for a 3,000 gold lead.
Yeah, another great 1-2 punch from Thanatos and the Zeri, Loki's Zeri, right? Getting that knock-up on. Loki's immediately able to take out Rahel. They end up taking out Darkwings. Again, Thanatos setting up these team fights. Even when Castle is able to get this, they do get the shutdown onto the Zeri, but still C9's fight, C9's Drake, and C9 are just in such a good position. I'm
gonna be honest, I can't believe DSG even tried to fight for the Dragon, right? After they spent so much, they spent Flash Cataclysm, Cleanse Flash, and MF ulti off of their MF, all immediately, and all they got was the ultimate from Vulcan.
Yeah.
So then fighting the fight after that, to me, made no sense at all. And I feel like the pressure is maybe getting a bit to DSG at this point. They are starting to feel like the game is slipping away from them, and forcing like that in a situation where you don't even have all your tools makes it so difficult to win out. But Cloud9 are here on Otacon, and DSG are around. Yeah, C9 deciding to start up the objective. DSG ready to answer. C9 not trying to burn this down super quickly, as there the Solar Flare hits Darkwings, but a nice Mikhail's going to keep him safe from that one. Castle with Mega Gnar, eXyu also approaching from the bottom side river, but C9 have disengaged from the objective. They do not want to throw at this Otacon, as the plants are going to keep getting spammed there by Blaber. Just try to harass DSG as much as you can. Castle's back into Mini-Gnar, though, and that's a very good sign for C9. That Zap Laser just chunked out 30% of Huhi's health bar just on its own. The Zeri is still priority #1 for everybody on DSG, and this poke is not making the job any easier. Castle's trying to create a little bit of distance between himself and Thanatos, but this Rek'Sai is so obnoxious on the front line, creating so much space. DSG feel like it's so impossible to approach this. The Otacon now once again started up by the side of C9. Castle's trying to use the red buff to stack his rage bar so he can come over and be effective in the fight. Blast Cone also available for him. DSG still watching C9 work on this. They've got the Otacon down to 1/3 HP, and now DSG's going in, but already things have gone sour. Rahel is down, so is Huhi. DSG, they tried to go in, but they couldn't find their moment. Castle and eXyu are still alive. Blaber might be dead, but there's still so much left on the side of C9. eXyu stepping forward. He wants to take the Otacon away, but the Zenith Blade from Vulcan finds him instead. Now the full ace is going to come through again. And with everybody in DSG colors on the floor, C9 is free to take the Otacon.
C9 end up taking this Otacon. It really looked like Castle and eXyu were trying to look for something on the back half of this, especially Castle, but he's just too late to the fight, right? Like, Loki has already cleaned up a few of them going in.
And look at that backstep by Loki. That was sick. He goes over the wall, in onto the Cassio. Perfect timing on the backstep on the Cassio ultimate to avoid the stun. Then just wins the duel straight up. But honestly, as much as this game is about Loki, I feel like Thanatos is carrying a lot of these fights. He is just smurfing it, getting into the backline, putting on so much pressure on the Rek'Sai here. First time he's played it in competitive play, and he is really making it work. And Loki, 12 kills now on that Zeri, has his 3 items, working towards the BT. DSG's hopes, their dreams of pulling off this monumental upset, of pulling off this reverse sweep, are slipping away very, very quickly. They have got to find a way. They've got to find a way to problem solve for this Zeri, and I just don't know that they're going to be able to do it.
Yeah, at this point in the game, it's going to be really tough, right? Thanatos' engages have been absolutely stellar. Loki's been able to follow up on almost every single one. So we see eXyu and Rahel kind of looking for a play onto Zven, but he's able to just walk away. And that's been the difference maker in this game to me. Like, yes, we had kind of the Darkwings flank that led into that Loki quadra kill, but it's been Thanatos' setups and the fact that he's just been team fighting so much better in
Thanatos
this
is
game.
TP flanking.
Okay, let's see what we get. C9. Oh, that's a big chunk of damage onto Huhi there, disguised. They've got to be thinking better of this right now. They do not want to take a fair fight in open ground against a Cloud9 squad that's 5,500 gold ahead, that has a Zeri with Infinity Edge now completed alongside that Runans. If Loki doesn't die instantly, there's just no way for Disguise to win a fight at this point. You need Cloud9 to throw somehow, to get over Eager, to end up trying to engage onto you, but so far, C9 has been very patient. They just allow Blaber to be that no, you shall not pass type of a wall as the poke from him and Zeri continues to fly out.
Well, and it's also going to be really difficult just with this composition that DSG is running, right? Like, we kind of saw how it could potentially work, like with the Gnar, with the J4, then the MF ult on top, then the Cassio damage on top, but they're not going to be able to set up for that if they're getting constantly poked out by this Zeri, by this Senna. It's just going to be so difficult for them to even get an advantageous position.
And right there, you saw flash blown again. Rahel forced to use that summoner spell as Thanatos continues putting on the pressure.
I mean, Rahel has just never been able to get a really high-value bullet time, right? It's very difficult to stand in fire when you're playing, and now he's caught out.
Yeah, Thanatos going in after him, but Castle is right there to protect his AD carry. TP coming in, though, as Loki is about to arrive to the Rek'Sai tunnel, and he's got Guardian Angel now. That is 4 fully completed items 25 minutes into the game on a hyper carry champion. The task is nearly impossible at this point for Disguised.
I mean, just look at the golds. I'm going to bring it up here on the gold graphs. That tells the story, right? Like, his bar is just gargantuan, right? It is ridiculous how far ahead of the pace of the game he is. And let's check out the damage as well. Woo! Yep, no surprise that he's at the top there as well, but it's really Cloud9 members. You can see, Zven and Blaber, they're getting a ton of poke down, making the job for DSG so difficult to find these engages. And with GA there, with Seekers on Zyra, those are kind of the 2 targets that you would really want to go for, but neither of them are very easy whatsoever now. And now you have to kill Loki twice through Zyra ultimate and everything else.
Yeah, and you're not going to be able to get the setup to do it because the everything else is just going to poke you down in the meantime, which just makes it 10 times harder for DSG. And it's kind of crushing, right, in terms of some of their really early map movements in this game, in terms of how well they've been able to go punch for punch with C9.
Got a Mega Gnar ulti.
Fine.
Yeah, Thanatos just digs away from it, though. This Rek'Sai so durable, so obnoxious to try to kill this thing.
Yeah, her sustain is insane. She can basically just survive, right? The problem is, if you're playing this Rek'Sai, you need to make sure that you have other sources of damage. But Thanatos has been setting up super well for Loki, who just does so much damage.
And I mean, we've posed all these difficult questions for DSG. They basically have 2.5 to solve it, right? Because that is going to be the Infernal Soul, and I think that is the death knell of DSG in this game. If you give over that soul to this team that's already monstrously ahead, Infernal Soul for Zyra and Senna and like all these plants, it's such easy poke. It's just going to be so obnoxious to deal with when you're already this far behind. So realistically, they have one more shot here. And it is going to be a really low percentage shot, but it's going to be the one you'll have to take, and we'll see if they can pull off a miracle. You know, something like an ace into a dragon into a baron, and you're back in it. But barring that, it is hard to see Cloud9 not being able to deny the upset here and put a stop to this reverse sweep.
And if they do see a potential angle, I do think they will go for it. That has been something that we've kind of praised DSG throughout this series, is being able to potentially recognize when they can go in. But yeah, it's just the setup for this comp is just so difficult.
Okay, DSG, they're running out of time. 90 seconds remain on that timer. C9 occupying the top side river, since Baron is really the only thing that matters on the map right now. They would be able to do it very quickly if anybody from Disguised walks too far forward into the darkness, gets themselves picked off. If you're missing anything at all, it's a green light for C9 to just start the Baron and immediately take it. Zven also with his rapid fire cannon now completed and the static shiv. Those two items are so nasty with an Infernal Soul connected to them as well. It's just such a daunting prospect for DSG at this point in the game, over 6,000 gold behind.
And the other thing is C9 don't have to set up for this Baron, right? Like, they do have vision around it to see if DSG are going to sneak it. But as Azael already pointed out, the big thing is going to be this Infernal Soul, because that will just be like further shutting the door on this game. It's going to be near impossible for DSG to kind of play into an Infernal Soul, Zeri, Zyra, Senna combination.
The Z champions are very, very powerful here in game number 5. Let's see if DSG can pull off the miracle. If Cloud9 get a little bit too jumpy and go in too far ahead of themselves. 6,000 gold lead, 3 Drakes, 26 flowers. They've got a lot of resources.
Oh, they're just going to flip Baron.
Okay, DSG, they're just full sending it. They're going after the Baron. They know that they have such a low percentage chance to win in this game, but there's the Scryer trinket. It's going to see what's going on over here as C9 make their approach. The Baron not low enough to try to finish this off. There's no Mega Gnar on Castle here as eXyu jumps in with a Cataclysm, tries to get right back out. Loki's already going to kill him and the fight's over before it's even really begun. They lock up and beat down the entirety of DSG, and nobody on Cloud9 loses their own life. It's only Huhi left alive, barely hobbling away, and C9's just marching it down mid lane. eXyu's not going to be alive for another 25 seconds, and everybody else is trailing another 10 or 15 seconds behind that. C9, they don't even need the Infernal Soul. They want to end this series right here.
Yeah, they're going to barrel down mid on the back of this Loki Zyra, which we were wondering how it would do. C9 had faith in this composition, and now they're going to take the game.
Nexus turrets will not stand any further. C9 were pushed to the brink, to the absolute limit, but they will halt this reverse sweep in progress. They will secure the Game 5 win, and they will stay alive in the lower bracket.
By the skin of their teeth, they have stayed alive. They have staved off that reverse sweep. Disguise is going to have a lot of what-ifs that they're thinking about. But something that there is no question about in my mind for Disguised is the fact that this team has improved by leaps and bounds from the previous splits. This roster, these 5, have some potential here to really get things done. And Cloud9 were lucky to get out here alive. I mean, game 1 could have been a loss were it not for the Otacon throw. This game could have potentially been very different were it not for some heroics from Loki, but he saved them in this one.
Yeah, and I mean, he was consistently, I think, one of their best players throughout. However, we are now walking along with Vulcan on his way to the interview. So Loungers,